Hello everybody and welcome to another World Cup predictions video. It's time to do the first 4 games in the last 16. How have my predictions been so far? Well, if you've been looking at my predictions for the group stage, you will know that I have been absolutely terrible. Really terrible. And haven't you let me know down in the comments how terrible I've been? But it's been an unpredictable World Cup, and that's my excuse. And it doesn't really matter, because as we know, England are just going to win it in the end anyway, as they always do. But these predictions are just for fun, and it is only my opinion. So please let me know your comments, as always, down below. I do put timestamps in the description as well if you do want to jump ahead to any particular game. I get it, you may not want to know the predictions for all of the games, but if you do, and you want to watch the whole video, that's great for me as well. But if you can smash the like button, that helps too. And if you haven't subscribed but you like the content, think about subscribing, because that also helps me as well. And without wasting any more time, let's look at the first one of these last 16 games. It is 2 unbeaten sides. It is the Netherlands versus the United States, America. Starting with the Dutch, they've been solid, if not spectacular so far. The main moments of magic for them have come from CODY GAKPO, who's scored in every single game so far and looks a real talent. They're already linking him that he's going to join a Premier League club after this tournament. But going forward, the Dutch have looked a little bit toothless, a little bit uninspired, so they'll be hoping that Memphis Depay can return to even more fitness than he showed and play a full 90 minutes, because he certainly will give their attack more potency. But it's in defence where this Dutch side have been impressive. They've only conceded 1 goal so far, starting with unknown goalkeeper. Bit of a shot in the dark for Van Gaal, this one. Noppert in goal has been an inspired choice, and he looks an absolute monster in that goal, and he complements a fine back line along with the likes of Van Dijk, with Ake and with Timber as well. Where Holland will look to exploit the Americans is where USA have a tendency to overcommit and overload in the midfield, and that is where the Dutch can get in behind them, certainly in the wide areas. Should try to look for Blind, try to look for Dumfries to give them plenty of space in behind to try and get those balls in and create chances for the likes of Depay or Gakpo. And we move on to the Americans, and they've done a great job of qualifying, and they've looked good in all 3 games so far. Greg Berhalter, much maligned coach coming into this tournament, but he's certainly got his tactics working. He's almost certainly to play a 4-3-3 or a 4-3-1-2 if you want to get technical about it, Matt from Grandstand Betters. But the work rate from the United States has been absolutely first class, particularly in the midfield, and it's meant that they have dominated those midfield battles against England in particular, but also against Wales and against Iran, and I would expect them to try and continue to do that in this game against Holland. It's really Musa, McKennie and Adams, and the 3 of them work so well together. It means like they press in a unit and they win the ball back high up the pitch for the United States time and time again, which really means they have the opportunity to pen sides back for large periods. The United States have been solid all over the pitch as well. It's not just going forward at the back line, which I thought would be a perceived weakness for them going into this tournament, has not proved to be. They've only conceded 1 goal, and that was a penalty. The likes of Dest and Robinson give them great outlets going forward as well on the wing. They're always willing runners, got plenty of energy, getting up and down the flanks. But the biggest problem for the United States is that number 9. Scoring the goals is the big problem. Gone with Sargent, they've gone with Haji Wright. I think he should start with Josh Sargent in this game. He has to hold the ball up well. He's probably their best option for being a hold-up man, and he has to get Weir and he has to get Pulisic, if he's fit, running in behind this Dutch line to try and stretch them, to try and pull them out of position. The USA can sometimes be a little bit guilty of being a bit too gung-ho and overplaying, so they have to be cautious of that, or they could be picked off on a counter-attack. So what do I think about this game? I think it's going to be extremely tight. I don't think either side are going to give away too much. As I say, USA just struggle to score goals. Holland haven't been that great going forward. I can see this one going all the way to penalties. I can see it being a 1-1 draw after extra time. Even after 90 minutes, after extra time, goes to penalties. Who wins it? Well, I am going to go for a shock for the red, white and blue. I'm having America going through on penalties. And we move on to the second game on Saturday, which is Argentina versus Australia. And let's start by looking at the Argentinians. Look, after that embarrassment of a defeat to the Saudi Arabians, it would have been easy for Argentina to go into their shell, to be a lot of mudslinging, to be a lot of ill discipline, and for them to have a bad tournament. But Lionel Scaloni's team, it has a different character about them, and they've handled that loss really well, and they've used it as a bit of a fuel to charge them forward. And we've seen how Argentina like to control a game. They like to control it in midfield and they like to control it in their forward line with almost like a great rotation and almost like a carousel of short passing and dribbling through the midfield, which almost suffocates the opposition, keeps them very hemmed in so they can't really do anything but just sit back and defend and just try and hold on. We saw them absolutely dominate Poland in this most recent game, and you have to think that's going to be a similar thing when they come up against this Australia side. The speed of which they move the ball is impressive as well, with the likes of Di Maria, Alvarez, Fernandez, etc. And there's a few others in there as well. They all seem to come in interchangeable, do a very good job. And as I say, they control possession, but the game, of course, comes to life whenever Lionel Messi touches the ball. He is in great form. When they needed him, when they were backs against the wall against the Mexicans, he comes up with a clutch goal, as he has done countless times throughout his career. But he is looking in incredible form with his passing, with his movement, with his dribbling. It's amazing that he didn't score a goal against Poland, but as I say, he is looking extremely dangerous. And they are heavy favourites against this Australia side. Look, let's just say, I didn't give Australia a hope of getting out of this group, and you have to give credit to Graham Arnold and the Socceroos. They've done a fantastic job of reaching the knockout stage, especially after getting a 4-1 defeat in the first game. To come back with two gritty 1-0 wins just shows you exactly what Aussie sport is all about. But how on earth can they lay a glove on this Argentina side? Well, I think it's fair to say they've got to sit deep, pick their moments and play on the counter-attack. They need another inspired performance from Harry Suter at the back. He's got to marshal that defence once again. I do think that they're going to probably stick with a 4-4-2. They've changed those tactics against France. I didn't think it worked very well. They've got a better balance when they do play that formation, and I hope they do play with Duke and McGree up front, because I think that gives them a chance of at least stretching that Argentinian back line. And if those two can hold the ball up well, they can bring the likes of Moy, Leckie and Goodwin into the game to give them a chance of getting something out of this one. But as a result, on the whole, and as a prediction, you have to be realistic and say that Argentina are probably going to get through this one, no sweat. I expect it to be a very much attack against defence game. As much as I would love Australia to come and pull off the upset here, I think Argentina are going to get the job done. I'm going for a 2-0 Argentina win. France versus Poland is the first game on Sunday, and don't let that 1-0 defeat to Tunisia fool you into thinking France are not a amazingly, fantastically wonderful, complete team. Deschamps rested a ton of players for that one. I imagine he'll go back to doing a bit of a 4-2-3-1, and I imagine it will be the same 11 that started the game against Denmark. I feel they can control this game if they can cut off Poland's supply to Robert Lewandowski. He's their main outlet, and without him firing, Poland do look pretty toothless up the top of the pitch, because France could feel they can absolutely control this game if they can cut the service out to him. Going forward, they'll have no worries. It's the usual suspect, and it's the usual man that's been grabbing all the headlines. It's Kylian Mbappe, who looks a cut above everybody else at times. But this French side can be guilty of being a little bit impatient and being a bit sloppy in the final third and overplaying at times. And that might have to be what they are against this Poland side, who probably will set up to be quite rigid and quite hard to beat. France will have to be patient, will have to just relax and just back themselves to get the job done over 90 minutes, even if they don't go out all guns blazes and get the job done early. But there's so much variety in that French attacking lineup, not just with Mbappe, but with the movement of Griezmann, with the movement of Dembele as well. Rabiot provides a great option in there. And of course, Olivier Giroud is usually such a good focal point for this team too. Poland, well, I've just seen a shocking performance from Poland in the game against Argentina, and they really limp-wristed themselves into the knockout phases. But I have to keep reminding myself that That was one game, and they did actually do pretty well in the other two games that they played. They were very solid, they were hard to beat against Mexico, and they were pretty like that against Saudi Arabia, and they took their chances when they came about. Poland played 4-4-2 against Argentina, and they got really destroyed by doing it, so I don't think they can really afford to do that against France. They have to be a bit more 4-1-4-1 like they did in the first game against Mexico, or try and play a formation like what Denmark did against France of a 3-4-2-1, try and flood that midfield, try and stop those French players playing like high up the pitch, like what we talked about with Mbappe and with Griezmann and with Dembele. Let's not forget, and you're never going to forget, that Poland do have one of the best strikers in the world in Robert Lewandowski, but they have to get him into the game. They can't just leave him stranded up against four defenders, banging long balls up to him and just go, right, you do it, Robert, off you go, son. They need to get support up to him. Their best bet is probably down that right-hand side. The likes of Mati Cash, the likes of Zielinski look like they're the sort of players that can get forward and provide the service into him. I do hope that they try and play a player up with Lewandowski or just behind. I mean, I've already said a 4-1-4-1, so maybe someone like Piatek. I know he hasn't been that fit, but if he can get in there and play just behind Lewandowski, he can maybe give him a bit of a focal point so he's not just so isolated up the top of the pitch. There is also that option of set pieces where Poland do look a pretty tall side and do look quite dangerous from set plays, and also that fact of if Poland can drag this game to penalties, they do have Wojciech Szczesny in goal, who has saved 2 pens so far. But let's again be realistic when we're looking at a verdict and talk Turkey in this one, that you really can't look beyond France. It's hard to see Poland really winning this game, and I think France will come through. I'm going to go for a 3-1 French win. And that brings us to our main event. Of course it's our main event. It's the final game I'm going to talk about. Is England versus Senegal. Let's start talking about the AFCON champions, the Senegalese. Now, despite the injuries they've had going into this tournament and during the first game, it's fair to say they've improved as the tournament has gone on. It looked like they were going to play out a dull 0-0 draw against the Dutch until two kind of howlers from Mendy meant that they lost that game 2-0, but then they were better against Qatar, and they really played quite well in the game against Ecuador in what was a must-win match. So the Lions of Tarragona have shown their fighting spirit and shown why they are the AFCON champions, and believe me, this will be no pushover for England. Cisse will probably play a 4-2-3-1, but I don't hope, from Senegal's point of view, obviously from an England point of view, I hope they do, but they shouldn't just sit back and rely on the counter-attack. They should trust their back line to be quite solid and go out and press England a bit higher through that midfield. We saw USA do that against England, and it really put them on the back foot, and they really didn't know how to deal with it. If they can turn the ball over high, they can get the ball into Sabali, who is an excellent little playmaker, who can get the ball hopefully into Dia up front, cause England problems, or they can get the ball to Sarr, who can run at this England side and put them on the back foot. It's going to be a loss for them having Idrissa Gueye suspended for this game, so that does put Senegal on the back foot as well. But this is a side that is used to playing high pressure games. They got to the AFCON final. That game was taken all the way to penalties and they came through. Egypt in the playoffs for this World Cup, all the way to penalties after tough two legs, and they got that job done. So they are a well-drilled, tough side that won't mind taking this game deep, and they'll back themselves to do it, to take England out if the game goes into extra time or penalties. And then we come to England, and what can you say? 3 games. After the first game, we're World Cup winners. After the second game, we're terrible. After the third game, we're back to World Cup winners again. That seems to be the spectrum for English fans, and believe me, I know it. I've lived with it all of my life. Southgate will probably continue with a 4-3-3, and I think he'll continue with Henderson in that midfield. I think that USA game really scared him, where USA overran that midfield. He'll want Henderson in there alongside Rice and alongside Bellingham to just give England that little bit of control. I imagine he'll still go with Rashford. He might bring Saka back in for Foden, which will annoy some. Hope he doesn't. And obviously he'll have Harry Kane up top as well. I hope he does play Phil Foden, because not only is Foden just obviously one of the best players in the world, but he's also a tenacious presser, and he can win England the ball up high and get people like Rashford and Kane into the game high up the pitch. Marcus Rashford running beyond Kane is obviously a big danger point for Senegal, and it's something they'll have to work on and stop. But England will just rely on the fact they can keep this game compact. They'll try and control possession, what they did against Wales, what they did against Iran. and basically just try and grind Senegal down and hope that when the chances come along, they'll just take them and they'll just be able to keep Senegal at arm's length. I don't expect England to do anything particularly exciting in this one. I think Gareth Southgate will know he's got options from the bench if he needs to change it late on in the game too. So I don't. Maybe if we get through a next round, you might see England change tactic and go to 5 at the back. But at the moment, I think he'll keep it 4-3-3. And it's a very winnable game, I would say, for England. But they need to just be wary that Senegal are certainly no pushovers, but I think the quality of the England side, we should be confident that we're going to go on and win this one. If the game does go into extra time penalties, of course it is brown trousers time, but an England bias, of course I have an England bias, and I am going to go for England to win by 2-0. And there are my predictions for the first 4 games in the round of 16. I'll be back to do predictions for the other 4 games in the coming days. So I hope you like this video. If you can leave your comments down below, that'd be great. If you can smash the like button and subscribe, please subscribe. I need those subscribers. I'm a shill for the subscribers. But that is all from me. Hope you're enjoying the World Cup, and I'll be back very soon.